back to Classic Vinyl Podcast and our Meet the Beatles series. I am one of your hosts, Justin. I'm here with my co-host, Tyler.
Yep, I am here I'm audibly here.
You're audibly here.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the Beatles? I Want to Hold Your Hand and This Boy.
They want to hold my hand? Or
Somebody does.
somebody wants to hold this boy. Okay.
Somebody wants to hold this boy.
All right, I'm prepared.
Okay, so in our Meet the Beatles series, we're doing all the Beatles releases in chronological order, the way they were released in the UK, actually, their official catalog. So today we are doing I Want to Hold Your Hand with the B-side This Boy.
And I'm just going to shorten that to I Want to Hold This Boy.
Yeah, good.
I think Child Protective Services are on their way.
Yeah, they should be.
Yeah.
So on our Meet the Beatles series, we're not going to go into all the details of the band. You know, it's John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. They're the best-selling band of all time, my favorite band of all time, and so we're going to get right to it.
Okay.
So do you want to get to the song review?
Let's review I Want to Hold Your Hand.
And now it's time for the song review.
Okay, of course, today we're going to be doing the Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand, with the B-side of This Boy. What is your history? I mean, we know you're kind of starting to come into the Beatles, but what's your history with I Want to Hold Your Hand?
This is very popular Beatles music, and this is very heavily played on radios. It is a cute little sweet young love song, and so it's not my favorite Beatles song, but you know, it's a really good song, and I'm very familiar with it. The B-side, no, this was my first time.
Oh, that's interesting. So let me give you a few details on I Want to Hold Your Hand. The single was released on November 29th of 1963 in the UK and December 26th, 1963 in the US. So about a month later in the US. And since we're going to be keeping true to the UK releases, the B-side in the UK was This Boy. But when they released this song in the U.S., I Saw Her Standing There was the B-side. It was also released in the U.S. on the Meet the Beatles album. Now, this is a Lennon-McCartney composition that they sing in unison, but I Want to Hold Your Hand is pretty Lennon-dominant on the vocal. But it does have some good harmonies in it. It was recorded at EMI Studios in London and produced by George Martin. It was recorded the same day as the B-side we're doing today, This Boy. And then we've talked about that a lot of times too, how songs take forever to perfect nowadays and albums take forever to produce and all that. And these guys were cranking out 2 or 3 songs a day, and they're songs that are still played to this day. It's pretty crazy. So one thing about this song is it's the first Beatles recording to utilize 4-track recording equipment. There were a ton of advance orders for this single in the UK, and it would have went straight to number 1, but She Loves You was still holding the top spot. So it's always great to be beat out by yourself, right?
Yeah.
But 2 weeks later, after its release, it did hit number 1 in the UK, and it also hit number 1 in the US and pretty much most of the world. I mean, this really is the song that kicked off Beatlemania in the US. This and then She Loves You were really the 2 songs that really got it going, because this was the band's first number 1 single in the US, and then soon after that, everything was gone crazy. They weren't going to originally release this song until the middle of January of 1964 in the US, and because that was going to coincide a little bit with their Ed Sullivan appearance. But a young Beatles fan had actually requested the song from a Washington, D.C. DJ, and somehow it started making its way to other big markets like Chicago, New York, those kind of things, and it took off, and the advance copies took off, and it surely helped for when they hit here in the States.
That's pretty cool when you got fans that are requesting it on the radio before the album's even been released.
Well, and you got to realize too, the Beatles weren't big then. You know, I mean, not here at least. So
yeah,
this is really what helped them. I mean, they played this song live on both of their first 2 Ed Sullivan appearances, and this song really is pretty much the root of the British invasion. Let's be honest. I mean,
for sure.
The Beatles were number 1 in the U.S. and were greeted at the airport by screaming fans. And would they have been number 1 if that song hadn't been leaked? I don't know, but they certainly were. And then all their songs after that really hit. You know, this is another one of those Lennon-McCartney songs that they wrote face to face, like we've talked about before, face to face, eye to eye, with their guitars in hand. It's got pretty straightforward and simple lyrics. It's pretty easy to figure out what it's about. There's no hidden meaning. You know, it's not when you get into later Beatles songs where we can say, what does this really mean? You know, or what do you think it means?
No, this is straightforward, simple, young puppy love, right?
Yeah, it really is. And Like we said on the She Loves You episode, this is one of 2 Beatles songs that were recorded in German. So we've listened to the German version. Interesting.
Give me thine hand.
Exactly. And one other thing that's very well known by anybody that knows anything about the Beatles, but the part in the song where they say, I can't hide, Bob Dylan famously thought they were saying, I get high. And I think that kind of surprised him that they could use that in music at the time. And
I think that says more about Bob Dylan than it says about the Beatles.
it does, but he also introduced them to marijuana shortly after that. So, and who knows where the music would have went without that, let's be honest.
Yeah, he found an opening.
Yeah. So the single I Want to Hold Your Hand is certified gold in both the US and UK and has sold over 12 million copies of the single worldwide. So this is the band's best-selling single worldwide and the second highest of their singles in all the UK after She Loves You. So with this song, the Beatles set a record in the United States. They had 7 singles in the top spot in a year.
Wow.
So pretty crazy record.
I'll say.
Yeah, Rolling Stone has ranked this song as high as number 16 in their top 500. What that's worth, who knows? But
Rolling Stone is waging a little low, I think.
yeah, so after listening to the Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand for the purpose of reviewing it. What are your thoughts on this song?
Now I totally get why this song is all over the radio, all over classic radio. This song starts off and has that same energy as She Loves You. Okay. I mean, it's really super upbeat, super sweet, super energetic. I mean, this is just one of the things I noticed off. Okay. You got this instrumental intro and all of the instruments are being masterfully played. Everyone from George on the guitar, you've got Paul McCartney doing some really cool stuff with his bass that I've never heard before. And then you've got Ringo just rocking out on the drums, and boy, it's really good. John Lennon doing the vocals. All of them are just masters of their work, and they're so young. I'm impressed at how much practice these guys have at the tender age that they're at, and to be that well mastered in their craft. This song is just the perfect transition from that innocent 1950s love rock that gonna bridge over, it hasn't yet, but it's going to bridge over in the 60s to something more mature in love and in life and something more adult themed. But this is still that young, tender puppy love, and it's sweet and it's innocent, and it's something that the girls are going nuts over, and they're just screaming and dancing. This is excellent dance music, yet the adults are not, they have no reason to be concerned because, listen to it. It's just a boy singing about how he wants to hold a girl's hand. There's nothing wrong with that. He's not even saying he wants to kiss her. Talk about touching her, but we don't really think about that because the chorus is, I want to hold your hand. So it's still innocent, right? And yet it's so sophisticated. I'm just amazed and excited along with all these people to see what else are these guys going to come out with and all that. I mean, this song is just, it's a great song. It's well done. It's masterfully done. And I love the energy. And I mean, this had me, jumping up and dancing and going crazy. And this song single-handedly spawned the movie That Thing You Do. I don't know that for sure, but hey.
That's kind of a strange reference.
That is a strange reference.
But a decent movie.
Decent movie, and you know what? I'm not going to take it back. I'll bet it did spawn it because That Thing You Do really sounds a lot like I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Kind of does, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I think about I Want to Hold Your Hand. What are your thoughts, Justin?
I can't say enough about this song.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is really what started it all, right? If not for this song, if not for that girl requesting it, maybe I wouldn't know the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we wouldn't know The Who or Led Zeppelin or the Rolling Stones or any of them. Who knows?
Yeah, some girl that's forgotten to history in 1960s Washington, D.C.
Yeah, but I mean, This song, as far as the United States is concerned, and really for the rest of the world, because that was the Mecca. We were when you hit it here, you hit it everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And they were a big band in England, obviously, but when they got here with this being a number one song, the first number one in the state, and everything they did after that, they couldn't do anything wrong. And this song is an amazing piece of that, if not the root of that. It's a great song. I love Lennon's Rickenbacker 325 on this. The way he plays rhythm, in my opinion, is amazing. I think he's a very underrated rhythm player.
Yeah.
If any of the Beatles can be underrated, he is. George has got great licks in this. The drumming's great. I mean, you can't say enough about Ringo. It is a harmonized vocal between Lennon and McCartney, but Lennon's definitely a dominant vocal on this one. It's just great. It's everything about the Beatles early, and it's really what started. And I think it's one of those things where you have to put yourself in the shoes of the times, too, and what kind of music, like you said, coming out of the 50s was happening, and this was putting all the rock and roll together, healing the world, or I shouldn't even say healing the world, but, this was shortly after Kennedy had been shot, and this is what the U.S. needed, was something to overtake this country, and it's just an amazing song. We did listen to the 2023 remix as well, which there are some differences. The bass is definitely mixed a little heavier. Drums are a little forward and a little more distinguishable. I don't know if they're doing that for the newer crowd, throwing a little heavier bass in it. You can pick Paul's bass out in the original pretty decent too, but definitely in the 2023 remix, it's a lot more solid. But yeah, this is an amazing song, and this one's going to be tough for me to rate, or I should say be really easy for me to rate, because this is the song, man.
Yeah.
This is the one that started it. And like you said, this I Want to Hold Your Hand is by far not my favorite Beatles song, but I've really enjoyed all their early stuff, but I came to the Beatles in their mid to late stuff and worked my way back, not like a lot of the people that lived through it, and so it's kind of an interesting thing, but this is the song that started it all. Okay, so let's get to the B-side, This Boy. This is another Lennon and McCartney composition, but this is mainly a Lennon composition that they finished face to face, and that's according to McCartney in later years. And people give him a little bit of shit that he doesn't remember exactly everything. And I'm thinking, I can't remember things that happened a couple years ago, let alone Paul McCartney, a song that was 60 plus years ago.
He's in his 80s. This is something from his 20s, and you want him to remember every detail of it down to, well, what did you have for lunch that day?
Yeah. So this is sang in a 3-part close harmony by Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison. This was the B-side, obviously, in the UK is what we're doing, but it was also the B-side of All My Lovin' in Canada for some reason. But this one was also recorded at EMI Studios in London and produced by George Martin. And like I stated earlier, it was recorded the same day as I Want to Hold Your Hand. It was released in the US on the Meet the Beatles album. And they performed this song on Ed Sullivan too, but only on their second Ed Sullivan appearance did they perform this song. And I think it was a wise choice, because that song's like All My Lovin', She Loves You, and I Want to Hold Your Hand. And I think this was a good counter to those, to show different things they could do.
For sure.
Yeah, so this is another attempt of Lennon's, which he was very into Smokey Robinson and the Miracles at the time, and the Motown sound, the Motown style. And this is kind of his take on that.
Okay, that fits, yeah.
Yeah. The lyrics are straightforward and easy to understand what they're about. Just listen to them. And there's another kind of interesting thing about this song. There is an instrumental version of This Boy titled Ringo's Theme. It's on the Hard Day's Night movie and on the Hard Day's Night USA soundtrack album. That's kind of interesting.
Is this where he goes off and wanders by himself?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So the instrumental version had a B-side, and it was the instrumental of the song And I Love Her. And those instrumentals reached number 53 in the U.S., but number 1 in Canada.
The Canadians just love their subdued, smooth, slow songs, don't they?
Without lyrics.
Yeah.
So after listening to This Boy, as you said, it was the first time you had listened to this. We listened to it a few times. What are your thoughts on this song?
Oh, this is a stark contrast to the A side. This one is so low energy, subdued, and smooth, almost jazzy. I mean, this does have that Motown feel to it. It's so well done. Very reminiscent of the 19s love songs, but, the slow ones. This doesn't sound like most Beatles songs that I'm familiar with. And so it is a little bit odd. I wouldn't say jarring. It's not that far out of their wheelhouse. But then again, it's just got a different sound than we're used to hearing from the Beatles, especially early Beatles. But I'm glad that they did that and I'm glad that they held it back for the second appearance on Ed Sullivan, because they'd already established themselves as, hey, this is who we are. But this is also singing this on their second appearance, like a few months later, letting them know, hey, don't try to pigeonhole us. We aren't just a one-trick pony. We are artists working in the medium of music, and they do a very good job letting us know that. As far as the lyrics go, yeah, very straightforward. He's just trying to reason a girl out of going for the bad boy that she can't help, wanting to fix, but he keeps hurting her and wants to hurt her. He wants her to give a chance to a nice guy like him, right? I don't know. We haven't heard the end of this saga yet, but I just it is a tale as old as time. He's been friend zoned. Come on, dude. What are your thoughts on this one?
I really enjoy this, and I might disagree with you a little bit about it being really subdued, because although it is, it's got a good acoustic intro. The one thing that stands out on this more than anything is Lennon's rhythm playing. It's amazing, and the harmonies in this are absolutely amazing. Really early Beatles harmonies on a slower song. It is a little slower. Good slow bass. The drumming by Ringo is perfect. But when Lennon gets into that part, oh, and this boy in the middle, and he kind of screams it, I think that's perfect. I love the way Lennon does that with his vocal. This is just an amazing song, and even though it is slower, I don't find it as a subdued song. Anybody that listens to this, listen to the rhythm playing on his 325 Rick. I'll say it again. I think Lennon is very undervalued and underappreciated as a rhythm player. And that doesn't come as any surprise to any Beatles fan. But I think anybody that's not a super Beatles fan probably doesn't think of Lennon as a great guitarist, and he really is. He holds it down amazingly. There's a reason this group is so great, in my humble opinion.
Absolutely.
So do you want to get the song ratings?
I'm ready to rate it.
Song rating.
Okay, so our rating scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the best. So for I Want to Hold Your Hand, the A-side, I'm giving this one a solid 8. This has great energy, masterful sound. Not my favorite Beatles song, but I mean, this deserves at least an 8. And it probably deserves higher. And I'm sure a lot of Beatles fans out there are going to agree it deserves higher, Tyler. So shame on me for putting it down at 8. Where do you put it?
I cannot rate this any lower than a 10.
That's fair.
This song kicked everything off, not only for the Beatles, but for every other group that followed them in that British invasion. And so what this did, and you look at all the bands and all the artists that the Beatles have influenced, and then every other band that came along with them, the Stones, the Who, the Kinks, all those guys and all the bands and artists they've influenced. To me, this is the root of all of that. Mm-hmm. And so this is not my favorite Beatles song, but without this, it's a great song, without a doubt. And without this song, maybe some of the other ones don't exist. So I'm afraid to rate it any lower than that. And I love this song. It's the root of everything.
I am fully prepared to receive all the hate mail that our fans will send us, and I deserve it. I'm on you guys' side. I suck.
So what are you rating this boy after hearing it for the first time? You heard it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm going to drop this one down even a notch lower. I'm putting this one into 7. It's nothing like my favorite Beatles song, but my favorite Beatles song is Why Don't We Do It in the Road? So
yeah, right now, because
right now.
You like strange songs.
That's why this is who I am right now. It's not a phase, but this boy, I'm ashamed as well now talking about it that I put it at 7, but that's where I put it. So where do you put it?
Well, you said something that it's different, not what you're used to for early Beatles, but it's exactly what I'm used to for early Beatles. Mm-hmm. And you got to think of the people that grew up with them. It's exactly what they're used to, because they heard this right up front. Mm-hmm. Right. So they're used to this song. And I think that's one thing that makes this group so amazing, that it can do one thing and then something polar opposite and then back into something else. And just when it gets popular, then they change it up again. And I think that's what makes this group so special. Yeah. I rate this boy a 9. I won't rate too many Beatles songs low because I am a super fan, but there are some that'll be on the lower side. But some of this early Beatles stuff is also rated on somewhat of a curve for what it created and what come after it. I love this boy, and in some ways I might even like it more than I Want to Hold Your Hand, but it doesn't quite have the prominence of what it's done for the group and popular music and things like that. So
for sure, there is a sophistication to this boy that is a little bit beyond the kind of puppy love from I Want to Hold Your Hand.
It is, and like I stated, anyone, if they don't know, go listen to Lennon's rhythm playing on this song, because it's absolutely amazing.
For sure.
Amazing what he can do. But that is the Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and this boy, Send us an email at classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com and let us know what you think. Send a song request if you'd like to. Yell at us, yell at Tyler, yell at me, whatever you want to do.
It's deserved. Like I said, I'm on you guys' side. I'm completely wrong.
But we appreciate you taking your time to listen to us. But until next time, we'll see you later.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.